Well, well, welcome back. I'm going to tell you the truth because if we're not honest with each other, we don't transform together. My name is LaMarcus Strickland, and I wanted to say welcome to Between God and Grit. So today I need to talk about something I hid behind spiritually. There was a season where I was waiting on God. I said he wasn't speaking. I said it was a dry season. But it wasn't dry. I was distracted. So in this season, which lasted about 2 decades, I was distracted from my purpose. And that distraction came in the form of lust after beautiful women. Yes, all women are beautiful. Not all women are beautiful to you. And not all women are beautiful to me. Not all men are handsome to you. I don't look at men like that. So we'll just leave that out there for the women. But the season was, I was in an amazing relationship, and I would just see these, what I used to call rarities. And what a rarity was, is it was a very attractive woman that had body, had everything. And I would look. Yeah, it's shallow, but I would look. And it got to a point where I was allowing that to lead me. So it started really making me frustrated and peeing me off. And I remember praying and praying and praying and praying and asking God to take this thorn from my side, take this thorn from my flesh. But every chance that I got to not look and focus on what was there, it happened when I was with my family. It happened sometimes when I was on a date. It happened when I was just shopping at the mall. In the internal conflict, a woman would walk by me, because if I'm being 100% honest, I prefer the rear, the keister. And that was my thing. And I had an internal conflict because when a woman will walk by, the first worldly gesture would be, look. And I'd be like, nah, I'm not doing that. I can't disrespect my lady, even though I already disrespected her by having the thought process in the first place. And what made me most frustrated and pissed off is the fact that I had to battle myself with this all the time. I kept telling myself, bro, we don't think like that. Men of God don't think like that. Men of integrity don't think like that. We don't think like that. And yet the thoughts kept happening. I felt like a fraud. But the issue wasn't confusion. It was lust. It was pornography. We call that sexual immorality. But I call that an undisciplined desire. And I used to think about Paul's thorn in the flesh. So here's the break. Paul's thorn in the flesh. 2 Corinthians 12:7 was a severe and ongoing affliction, or quote unquote messenger of Satan, allowed by God to keep the Apostle Paul humble after receiving great revelations. Described as it was a source of an intense physical, mental, or spiritual suffering. And Paul requested its removal 3 separate times. But God responded, my grace is sufficient for you. So I used to honestly romanticize about my struggle. I used to treat it like it was mysterious. Like it was some deep spiritual battle. But it wasn't mysterious, it was access. It was a habit. It was secrecy. Easy access can be extremely dangerous when used in the wrong mindset, in the wrong habit, in the wrong thought process. Because it becomes a cycle, y'all. And it became a cycle for me for over 22 years. became about shame. Shame in your hiding, because I started hiding it. And when I got married, I didn't deal with that. I kept that, and I was still in a cycle, and it hid, and I hid it, and it was a cycle time after time after time. And it ended up hurting the woman that I claimed to love. Easy access from multiple things can be extremely, extremely detrimental. Access, sometimes we don't need access to everything, and I've proven that to myself. What are you hiding, or what are you lying to yourself about the access that you have about? What are you doing there? Because here's the lie I told myself, fam. If God wanted this gone, he would remove it. I didn't use grace as a cushion. I used stress as a justification. I blamed everyone in every situation that happened to me that you allowed me to use this way out as a way to relieve myself of stress and heartache and pain and being tired and no one understanding my plight. I used stress as a justification. And because I was hiding from it, y'all, it kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and harder and harder and harder to change, harder to transform or renew my mind. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed through the renewal of your mind. My marriage couldn't have fixed what I created for myself. The dopamine rush, the addiction, the distraction, the hiding, the shame, the being deceitful. Because if you're not being the light and if you're not being open, you're being deceitful. You see, listen to me when I say this. I asked for deliverance, but I didn't remove access. I prayed, but I didn't build discipline. And there were times where I rebuked temptation, but check this. I rebuked temptation, y'all, with a smartphone in my hand. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need you to be aware, and I hope you're tracking with me. I rebuked temptation with a smartphone in my hand. Which means that in the private moments when I needed to show true character, because remember, God is always watching, but true character. And I went into the closet and I prayed and I did this and I did that, but yet I was rebuking temptation with the smartphone in my hand. I didn't build discipline. I didn't remove the access, but I did ask for all the Christian things. Give me deliverance from this. But guess what? Faith without works is dead. If I felt that God was going to deliver me, I would have actually worked that out by removing the access, creating the accountability, and building the discipline. And I know some of you are there right now. You know, shout out to my main man, one of my mentors. His name is Jerry Angel. Very great man of God. And I truly believe if y'all don't have a mentor or somebody to walk with you, hit me up. Or hit somebody in your life up that can actually create change and give you unbiased, because they care about you, but unbiased biblical truth or mental truth, emotional truth, whatever truth it is that it may be hard for you to receive, to give it to you because that person loves you. You need to find somebody. I justified that, you know what? Forgive me, Lord. I was using repentance, not in the correct way, but I was using it as a button. Bing, forgive me, Lord, because I know he will. Bing, forgive me, Lord, because I know he will. Bing, forgive me, Lord, because I know he will. There was no discipline. There was no conviction. God wasn't holding it in my life. I was. I needed to create ownership over the addiction that I created, fam. An addiction isn't just passed down to you. It's something you choose to do over and over and over and over again. And some of y'all might not like that, but I don't care. It is a choice. Now, there are kids that are born when their mom was on like cocaine and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you being coherent, understanding, and present enough to continue to make a choice that is detrimental to you, your calling, in your life. But check this when I say this, y'all. Listen to me, for real. A moment of silence, just listen to me. When God said, "My grace is sufficient for you," I used to hear comfort. Now I hear power. Grace is strength. Grace makes you strong. God, it's biblical that our weakness is made strong in Him. And I'm not trying to preach. I'm not a preacher, man. I'm ordained, yeah, but I'll never preach at a pastor at a church or anything like that. That's just not my calling. Will I speak at some? Yeah, I would. Obviously, because God has a testimony and a message from me to you, for all of us. But at the end of the day, this isn't theology, it's practicality. Grace is strength, y'all. Grace is access to discipline. Grace is empowerment. And grace is exposure. What does that mean? I want y'all, and I challenge y'all to read Hebrews chapter 12, verses 4 through 11. And it talks about how God disciplines us as His children. And if we weren't His children, He wouldn't discipline us. Grace is access to discipline. Grace leads to discipline. Grace leads to empowerment, and grace leads to your greatest exposure. When I'm being vulnerable with you right now, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh shoot, this cat did the same thing. Is he still doing it? Is he doing this, doing that?" That's not anything that I'm speaking about right now. I'm speaking on how I overcame it. But that doesn't mean it's gone away. It's still going to be a thorn in my flesh. Just because you overcome an addiction doesn't mean the addiction disappears like that. Doesn't happen. Because grace is not permission. Grace is power to confront an addiction. Grace is strength through restructure. As I was speaking on New Year's resolution, no, it's a new direction. That's what restructuring is. You confront what is happening and then you go a new direction. It ain't got to be 180. It can be 90 degrees. As long as it's not a 360. As long as it's a different way, because that's exactly what God can provide for you. I had to remove certain apps on my phone, on my laptop, in order to make sure that that temptation was never there, but it's always there when you have access. I had to talk to my brothers. I even had to have a conversation with my wife on accountability, because here's the thing. We can change our habits, but it's a heart change at the core, the foundation of your change. You have to change your heart. And with that heart change comes a new direction by God. You have to grab on to accountability. I'm trying to tell y'all right now, send me a DM or a message. I promise to God that I will be your accountability partner, because I wish I had somebody. I wish I had somebody that I can open up to. I wish I had somebody that was there to be like, "Hey, no judgment. I got you." While I was walking through it. Now, did I have brothers as my older brother and little brother? Yes. Shout out to Calvin. Shout out to Lee. I love y'all. Y'all are my blood, amazing brothers. But then I also had brothers like Malik and Frank and Justin Bond and Guillermo Acosta. I had these guys that were there, that never judged me, that I could use as accountability. And once I established those, I needed to replace the habits that I had. When I was alone, it was like a voice. No, it wasn't a real voice, but it was temptation. I was like, "Yo, bro, you know what's up? I'm going to need you to go ahead and slide on that video you shouldn't be watching. Late night triggers when people were asleep. Oh, go ahead, bro. You can watch it. Don't worry about it. Can't happen. Environmental changes can change your habit, doing things differently, having the accountability, formulating a plan with your accountability partner. And if you're married, put your spouse in on it. This is what I'm doing, so you're in the know. I need you to encourage me. The thorn didn't stay because God was silent. It stayed because I was inconsistent. Now, let me say that again. The thorn didn't stay because God was silent. It stayed because I, LaMarcus Strickland, was inconsistent. I mean, I'm going to tell y'all this right now, that nothing changed until structure changed. Let me break it down for you. I had to remove access. I had to create time boundaries. I had to create sleep discipline. I had to create multiple forms of accountability. I had to shift my environment and have true, authentic internal honesty. What was the turning point? Well, honestly, the turning point was when I was on the verge of divorce. When I had embarrassed my spouse in a way that I don't think anybody else has ever embarrassed their spouse with. Maybe some people have, who knows? And I had to have the hard conversations with my wife. It's easy to speak to a therapist because they don't know you, they're trying to help you. But the person that's been your ride or die, that you hurt in such a brutal fashion, yeah, that's going to be tough. The moment I felt exposed was the moment that I was caught. And I had to finally admit and tell my wife a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for. I had done them, but I was never mentally prepared for them. So I stopped asking God to remove desire, and I started disciplining exposure. I stopped spiritualizing weakness, and I started structuring strength. So, family, here's the question. Where are you asking God to remove something that you're still protecting? Because grace is truly sufficient, but honesty is truly required. I love y'all so much, and I can't wait to see y'all in the next episode. Remember this, keep God first, and all will fall into place. Peace.